Some people have been asking me, well, how can you say negative things about libertarianism? They're on the same side as you. And I'm like, well, no, they're not.
Why do I have a feeling that's going to end up being a good thing?
They generally only use one scale to judge everything against. They generally only use one lens to look at everything through. And that lens is...
the non-aggression principle?
Liberty.
Okay, close enough, I guess.
Nothing else matters to libertarians.
No. That's where you're going wrong. That's the only defining characteristic of a libertarian, but if you weren't such a collectivist thinker, you'd realize that people are individuals. All sorts of things matter to individual libertarians. There's just one thing that makes you a libertarian: the nap.
It's similar to how there are other ideologies that can only look at things through a lens of power and privilege.
It's not even remotely like that. It just says that using aggression to do things isn't ethically justified. But unlike woke culture, which insists on making everything about race or whatever, we don't make everything about aggression. It's just that aggression is the only point where libertarian philosophy comes into play. And by the way, apropos of nothing, that thing you do where you're just cutting to random clips that seem like they sorta relate to what you're talking about, yeah, you think you're being clever, but you're not. Might want to cut that out. It's more annoying than anything else, and it just makes you look even dumber, like you feel you have to enhance what you're saying because no one would take it seriously anyway.
Now, I think liberty is a very important lens to view things through. It's definitely something we should consider very important. But that shouldn't be the only lens we look at things through.
And libertarianism doesn't say it should be. It's about your opinion on one thing: aggression. As long as it's not about aggression, individuals are free to form their own opinions and live their lives in the way that makes sense to them. Should you drive a car or walk? Should you be Christian, Muslim, or atheist? How important is science? What should your diet be? These are all important questions, but libertarianism doesn't have anything to say about any of them one way or the other.
But it shouldn't be the only lens we look at things through. And so that's my main beef with libertarianism. It willfully chooses to only pay attention to the lens of liberty. The principles of liberty.
Again, absolutely not so. To take a recent issue, should you get the COVID vaccine or not? Some libertarians say they won't, because they don't trust the government or Big Pharma or how it was passed or whatever. Others, like me, say quit your whining and get the jab, you big baby! Unless you got a medical reason not to, it won't hurt you, and it just might help. But regardless of which opinion libertarians take on the jab, we all agree that you shouldn't have forced vaccination in the form of vaccine mandates or passports or whatever.
In fact, to most people I've ever known, every person I've ever known that's been libertarian for more than a couple years, it completely colors people's personal experiences, and it eventually starts affecting their personality.
Yeah, he had to get the ad hominem attacks in.
It becomes the logic they use for just about any situation, every conversation.
No, only when there's aggression involved. So if it's your experience with libertarians, maybe it's not them. Maybe you're just an asshole who keeps advocating some form of aggression or other.
And there's often this strange admiration for 1800s language that everyone is just supposed to sit through.
I have no clue what he's talking about here. I mean, yes, we might quote Spooner or Bastiat, but we're just as likely to quote Rothbard or someone more recent. Just another baseless ad hominem. Not to mention you're showing a real lack of self-awareness complaining about other people using archaic language while pronouncing the T in often. Just saying.
And don't get me wrong, sure, libertarians can view other lenses if they're put on top of the libertarian lens.
It's more of a filter than a lens. Is aggression being used? Then it's wrong and it should be opposed. If not, then it's up to the individual to decide. I don't get what's so difficult about this. And I'm skipping about 2 minutes because all he does is repeat himself without saying anything new or providing any actual arguments to respond to.
Libertarianism does not believe in anti-discrimination policies. It believes that anyone, anywhere, in any position should be able to discriminate against anything they want.
So that's a perfect example. It's not that we don't believe in anti-discrimination policies, we're only against the ones that use aggression. We've written tomes about social pressure and market forces and how they can disincentivize discrimination.
No worker protections, no unions.
Outright lie! We just don't want the perverted, monopolistic unions our government has turned them into. Those more closely resemble the medieval guilds than anything else. As I've covered extensively, when unions first formed, they were free market. They were mutual aid societies, and we're all about mutual aid societies. It was government that was fighting them tooth and nail. When that failed, when government couldn't ban them, it captured them. Same thing with the whole laundry list of Pratt he mentions. Safety standards, minimum wage, all sorts of things. When we've covered at length and in detail how these things are made worse by government.
And people should even be able to legally sign some sort of contract that makes them a slave to another person.
Lie, 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 lie! We've explained repeatedly how any such contract is invalid. Like all statist chuckleheads, he can't respond to what we really say, so he has to lie. And that's all this is, a pack of bald-faced lies. And even more Pratt follows. Police can be bought and sold. All roads are toll roads. Poor kids don't get an education. He assumes that if his holy government doesn't do something, it can't get done. He's the one seeing everything through the lens of his precious state, just like he bogusly accused us of doing with liberty. Confession through projection.
Who needs cars to have seatbelts or airbags? I mean, who needs safety features?
This is the perfect example here. Seatbelts were already standard in cars before government started requiring them. All the government regulations did was require seatbelts as they existed at the time, so no more innovation was possible. The seatbelts we have today are largely the same as they were in the 1970s. As for airbags, government delayed their introduction, not required them, by something like 15 years, and they mandated that car companies use them for what they weren't designed to do, namely, protect an unbelted driver, which necessitated making the airbag deploy dangerously quickly. At the time, car companies and other experts were warning the government that this was dangerous, especially to children and shorter drivers, and they wouldn't listen. And what happened? Shorter people and children started dying, and morons like you blame the free market, and still, the government wouldn't even give drivers the choice of turning them off. Car companies had to spend tons of R&D money innovating ways around it, such as sensors that detect the size of a driver or passenger and switching it off automatically, something government only allowed them to do after years of lobbying. Search my channel for the Pinto and the Corsair for 2 other examples of lies being sold to the public as to why we need your holy government to protect us from the evil car companies. Anti-lock brakes, side impact beams, traction control, side airbags, crumple zones, backup cameras, blind spot detection, auto braking and lane assist. I can go on and on and on listing automobile safety features that aren't mandated by government. And with the exception of airbags, all of the ones that are were already standard by the time the government started requiring them. Car companies even employ things like crash test standards that are far greater than what's required by government. It's one more example of government jumping in front of a parade and pretending to lead it. We have facts. He has fear-mongering. That should tell you everything you need to know.
And perhaps you're right if it's on the right things. Sure, I'd be fine if libertarians ended the war on drugs, ending our military occupation in, most of the world. Made huge cuts to the military. Fixed our messed up copyright system.
Oh, sure, you like principles just fine if they're applied the way you personally like them. If they're used to do things you personally want done, which means that you don't actually have any principles at all, do ya?
To be fair, though, I shouldn't really worry about them much. This is why I don't talk about them much, because their numbers are small.
And an argumentum ad populum to finish off with. Great way to show how completely unthinking you are. Go follow along with the crowd. Saves you having to think for yourself. Hey, thanks for watching. Please hit like and subscribe and keep these videos coming by donating, becoming a subscriber and getting special benefits, or even for free with airtime. And check out all the great content here, like this video selected just for you.